Tabletop Weekly, and we're the partners of Solarian Games. I'm Jason,
And I'm Peter.
and this week's stories. V, the TV series, comes back as an audio drama. New Monster Manual details released, and the new Voltron RPG Kickstarter wraps up. All right, getting into our first thing. V, I don't know how many people have watched One, Many, All, None, or remember V. It started out back in 1983 as a TV miniseries. It was a two-part TV miniseries written by Kenneth Johnson. And then 1 year later, came back as a three-part sequel miniseries called V, the Final Battle. And then finally became, I think, the thing that I first saw, which was the regular 1984 TV series V, including what was the name of the actor who played Willie? He also was Freddy Krueger.
Oh, I took some notes on this. I went and looked because I remember there were so many great actors in this. It was Robert Englund.
Robert Englund, yes, which I never could find Freddy Krueger very scary because he played what was his name on V?
Oh, I didn't write that down.
I forgot, but he was so V is the Visitors. It originally stood V for Victory, but V for the Visitors, and it was a series about aliens that live amongst us, but it was filled with all kinds of metaphors and like good science fiction does. It looks at our own lives, and so one of the major struggles was about the human collaborators with the Visitors versus the people who were actually the resistance against them. And a major theme throughout was basically people not listening to scientists as usual.
Hey, what else is new?
But amongst, but the thing that was great about it is that even in something, as much as like good guys, bad guys, here's the invaders, we're resisting them, it was nuanced. And one of the characters played by Robert Englund I think his name was Willie. I think I might be wrong, but anyways, he was one of the Visitors, but he was actually on the human side. He was the most sympathetic and lovable character. So it was very, very, very rich.
And because they were lizards, so they were lizards wearing human skin.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Oh, come on! It's 1983.
What if somebody hasn't caught up to 1984 yet? They're still getting through the 60s.
Now, I have a rule, okay? It's been 20 years. I don't give a crap about your spoilers.
I think V is one of those things that's well known enough that we can.
So there's this scene where one of the scenes I remember from V, I think it's the scene I remember the most, where he picks up this rat and he goes, "Here, mousey, mousey, mousey," and like eats this rat or a mouse. I guess it was a mouse. And then he becomes Freddy Krueger, and it's just kind of like, you're not that scary. You're the guy that ate a mouse.
Robert Englund, Yeah. So that's what I know him from. And then they did do they call it a reimagining or a reboot in 2009 of it, which I haven't seen.
I haven't seen that.
But so now it is coming back again, but this time as an audio drama. So apparently Kenneth Johnson, who originally created V, wanted to bring the TV series back. And he wanted to just ignore the 2009 miniseries and all the subsequent fiction. He wanted to go off the original story, but Warner, who owned it, decided to go with a complete reboot instead. And so he did go ahead and write new stories as novels. So now there is an audio drama being created, I think, by Big Finish is the people who are doing it. And they are basing the new audio drama on Kenneth Johnson's original scripts, but they've moved the action to the UK. So That's coming out in 2025. It actually is an audiobook that you have to buy. I don't know if it's going to be on Audible as part of the subscription.
It's gotta be.
I get my audiobooks from the library, so that's how I'm going to do it. I don't like giving Audible my money. but I'm really looking forward to seeing, to hearing what they do with it, because I love a good audio series.
Do you know if it's going to be like a full cast or if it's going to be just one reader?
I think it's going to be a full cast because they're describing it as an audio drama. So this is not, it's not an audio book reading the new novels from Kenneth Johnson. Instead, it's a stage play, but done in audio.
That's awesome. I love those so much. Like I just finished the chapter, not chapter. What is it? So you have Sandman, right? I think it was.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say book 1 and book 2 or whatever. But I just finished the second Sandman, and I just it wasn't as good as the first one, which is whatever. The first one was so good, but the audio, I love the audio acting, and it had
Huh.
it had
I didn't know they
top
did that.
notch. Yeah, it's really good. They had James McAvoy is Morpheus,
Okay.
and Neil Gaiman is the narrator. He
course.
narrates, and then
It could
there's
be.
just have Kat Denning is
Wow.
she's Death,
Oh,
and
perfect.
I was actually disappointed when I saw the series on TV because they had another actress play Death, and that actress was fine. I had no problem with her. I was just disappointed because I wanted it to be Kat Denning. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Like, you know what I mean? Because I'd heard it in the audio,
Yeah.
but I just wanted it to be her.
Yeah, I thought the TV version was amazing. I don't know if they're going to be doing another one because Neil Gaiman has turned out to maybe have done a couple things he shouldn't have that might prevent it from going on. But
Right.
that's another story.
Yeah, it's a whole.
But I would love to hear the audio drama. In general, I prefer an audio book. I just like to have somebody read the book to me. But there's certain things that should be audio dramas. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is one.
Sure.
Doctor Who should be audio dramas.
Yes.
Sandman should be, and I think V definitely should be.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention that there was a couple other characters in there that were in some things, and I was looking because I was looking at the cast, and there was like a couple faces I recognized, and I'm like, but I don't know who they are, but I recognize them. They're like they were in my brain. And the one guy, Judson Scott,
Okay.
he was in Wrath of Khan. He was Khan's like right hand man.
Wow.
And that the blonde haired guy, the young blonde haired guy. He was also in this series called The Phoenix. I don't know if you remember. It only had one season. It's from the 80s. It was this cheesy sci-fi series that really only deserved one series, but it just sticks in your head. Mark Singer was in it, of course, who's the Beastmaster, right? You remember Beastmaster? That was the best. And then of course Michael Ironside, who's been in so many things.
Love Michael Ironsides.
Yeah, so many good actors.
So it's interesting because V is one of those things that even though it kind of is a cultural touchstone, I feel like the people who are really fans of V are still kind of in this niche.
Yeah,
it never got it never got Battlestar Galactica Star Trek type of fame, but it deserves it. And I was really surprised to see that there's only been one, as far as I could find in my research, there's only been one computer game made of it back in 1986, I think, for the Commodore 64.
Oh my God.
And there's never been a tabletop RPG.
Yeah, well.
So I'm calling on somebody to get out there and make it.
Yeah.
Sure, you've got to be able to get the rights to it if you do a really good game and go to Warner and say, what else are you going to do with this?
And you don't have to create an engine because there's one available to you for free that you can use.
There is. What do you know?
What do you know? And I think it would be perfect for a game like V. I mean, look, it's a game about espionage. There's so little you'd have to change. You could keep so much of it.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody is interested in making a game, you could, let's say you don't get the license, just call it something else, call it Visitors, right? But so we have the Lucky 13 game engine, which we make available for free. You can go to SolarianGames.com, and if you look in the news section, you'll see right there is, I don't even think you have to go to the news section. I think we just have it as a major navigation. You can download the full Lucky 13 game engine with all the information you need to make your own game. It's got all the serial numbers rubbed off it already. And there is a license in the back called the Everlasting License for Free, the ELF. No relation to Red One. Kind of little relation. And you can do whatever you want with it. So you make it, it's free to use. So go forth and make something based on V. I want to play it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be a great fit.
It would.
All right. Well, this next one, the monster manual's coming. So we've had the player's guide, we've had the dungeon master's guide, or the player's manual, dungeon master's guide. Player's Handbook. I'm so
Mhm.
stupid. Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and now we have the Monster Manual coming, and it's going to
Yes,
be
got to
in.
have your core 3.
Yes, going to be in February, which is interesting because I think it went in reverse order on Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, right? Or no, it was Monster
Yes.
Manual.
Advanced Dungeons and Dragons began with the Monster
Monster.
Manual,
Right.
and then went to the Player's Handbook,
Player's
and
Handbook,
then the
right.
Dungeon Master's
So it was
Guide.
in reverse, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, doesn't matter. So they've released some details. So there was a lot of rumor mill going around, but now we've got some confirmed details.
Mhm.
So the first one that is, and this one's important because the characters now are tougher than ever, right? So in the newest version of D&D, the characters are badass. I mean, they're super tough. So it's going to address the power imbalance for the mid and high CR monsters. So the
Okay.
higher the CR monsters, they're gonna pack more of a punch. So they're gonna be definitely deadlier. They shared a template for the Green Dragon, and the Green Dragon is like really beefed up. So that was an example showing folks that what they're planning to do.
Excellent.
And so I think that's important because you don't want like 8th level characters taking out ancient green dragons, right?
No. So right now we have up on the screen some artwork for anybody who is listening on audio. We've got a beholder, which is massive in this artwork. I can't see too well. It's attacking a couple of adventurers. Well,
Like a
first of all,
mage and like a fighter, maybe.
is this artwork from the forthcoming Monster Manual? Do we know?
I think so. So that's
cover?
why I picked it. I think this is from the cover of
That's
the
not
new
a bad
Monster.
cover.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot better than some of the stock photo recreated as fantasy art that they've been doing in other things. At least it looks like there's a fight happening.
Right. So there's a couple other things. This one's going to have over 500 monsters, and just to put that in
500.
perspective, there are approximately 300 monsters in the 2014 Monster Manual.
Okay, so let's see. So here I've got the original Monster Manual that I'm holding up, and I've got
Hold
the
on, I'm gonna
2014
see this.
Monster Manual.
Yep.
I mean, I have the whatever the special edition, so it's a different cover. But it's
I was gonna say I don't recognize that cover, but go ahead.
Yeah, this is the one that came in the box set. I think you had to buy it from your local game store. So 300 monsters in the previous one, and yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yep, that's 300. And then if we compare it to the original, which is practically a pamphlet by comparison,
Right.
and definitely didn't have 300. Well, I don't know. Actually, it had quite a lot. It's just
It had a lot. I don't know what the number is.
It's just that each one, the entries before they would be, you could fit 4 monsters on a page.
Right.
And
now it's not so much.
So, hey, value for money, because now you're actually seeing, now we get really big, in-depth things. I think the art was better when it was more punk, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But so this 500 monsters, that's gonna be value for money.
And so here's some other interesting things. 85 of the monsters are brand new, so never been seen before. And then there's going to be over 300 new illustrations, which is cool because they're not just reusing art. They're going to be a bunch of new illustrations, and they of those 500 monsters, they're integrating content from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes and Volo's Guide to Monsters, which is cool. They're both good books.
That's good. So I'm out of touch when it comes to some of the monster manuals. Has there ever been another Fiend Folio? Was that only a first edition thing? Or
I don't think so. I don't remember ever seeing another Fiend Folio. I mean, we got people in the chat. We got 5 people watching. Sure, they're all D&D fans at some point or another. Any of you guys know if there was ever been another Fiend Folio other than the the original?
I think there was a second edition one. I'm not sure, but because the Fiend Folio was basically TSR UK doing the monster manual.
Okay.
So I don't even know if there's a Wizards UK, or I honestly don't know how that works.
Right.
So,
I just remember getting the Fiend Folio
separated anymore. I mean, back then it was kind of hard to get things from one country to another. Now it's just everything's everywhere. So maybe it's not a thing.
Yeah, I remember getting the Fiend Folio and just thinking it was the coolest thing ever.
So
I
metal.
loved the Fiend Folio.
The Fiend Folio is so metal.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah,
it is.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
think wasn't it like the Monster Manual was more neutral-ish. The Fiend Folio was kind of evilish, and the Monster Manual 2 was more good. There was some kind of
Huh.
breakdown, that, like leaning towards certain alignment of type of creatures.
I don't know. I mean, the first Monster Manual was such a breakthrough. I mean, everything about it. I mean, what I have here is not the first printing or anything. I'm not
No,
that kind of a collector, but it's at least the first cover, the David Sutherland cover. And this was the first time that any role-playing book, role-playing game book had been printed full size. Anything bigger than a little pamphlet.
right.
Um, and I actually, well, okay, so there were saddle stitch or whatever, with the basic D&D, there were soft cover things, but this was the first hardcover book, and this is the one that set the format for. I mean, this is why we still see books in 8.5 by 11 size, because they went with, I think, a textbook printing company, which is
Probably.
you just, books don't normally come in 8.5 by 11 except for textbooks, and I'm pretty sure that's what the Monster Manual, the way it was printed the first time.
Probably.
So it's a really important book in the history of gaming, and so I think it's a big deal whenever a new one comes out, and it sounds like they're treating it like that big of a deal.
Yeah, and I think wasn't the original Monster Manual? It was almost like an in between OD&D and AD&D, right? Because I think they still had some old stuff left over, and the new rules hadn't come out yet. And I want to say it was almost like a 0.75 instead of a 0.1.
Well, it was
Or,
not
or
exactly
one
OD&D,
instead.
because you already had I'm going to pull out mistaken history here, so I'm not going to actually try to say what happened what year, but basic D&D was already happening,
Mhm.
so the things that went from, Moldvay to Holmes to Menser, etc. But so it wasn't as straightforward as that. The confusing thing is that they were they had different authors doing these basic D&Ds, and I think doing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was kind of Gary Gygax's way of getting his his copyright back on it. Saying,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to
There
write.
was something. There was something to that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was very confusing at the time. I mean, I don't think anybody I knew, or even anybody that I talked to in retrospect, really understood the difference between basic and advanced Dungeons and Dragons when we were, 9 or 10 years old. It just
Right.
didn't make any sense.
So Dave Rosner says there was a Fiend Folio Monstrous Compendium for second edition
Okay.
and a third edition. But then he says
The
there's nothing
Dave,
quite
was
like
the
the Fiend
Monsters
Folio.
Compendium, is that those big white binders with three-ring binders?
Yeah, I don't know. I think so. Something
I
like
think
that.
that's what it is. Yeah. But yeah,
So
Dave is totally right. Githyanki is what it's all about.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then lastly, it will
Dave
contain
Rosser is
more.
asking whose idea was it to do the hardback Monster Manual.
Oh,
I would love to find that out. My first guess would be that it was Gary Gygax,
yeah, I
but
would think.
there were a lot of people working for TSR at that point, and a lot of people making major contributions. So it could have been Tim Kask, it could have been David Sutherland, for all we know. I mean, it's a good question. We'll find out the answer. If
I think that
anybody
was
knows, put it in the chat.
Tim Kask's first big book with them, right? Wasn't it? I mean, I know we did Dragon, but I think
Well,
that
Tim
was the
Kask was
first.
mainly doing the Dragon. That's
Yeah, but I think that was
really.
his first like rule book that he was on. I
Oh,
think.
he might have been. I don't know.
Yeah.
See, this is where
Anyway.
we need a proper historian, because I read all the books and then the stuff's in
In and
one
out.
ear, in one eye, out the other.
There's a lot to keep up with.
There's a lot.
So lastly, it's going to contain more high and low challenge rating monsters, meaning that instead of just having a monster that is just one challenge rating, there'll be like lower and higher versions of them, so that if you have low
Huh.
level characters, you could fight a version of that monster without having to wait until you get to high level to fight it. So if the game master wants to use a lower version of the same monster, they can.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Why wouldn't you? I mean, you'll have younger and older dragons. You have,
Sure. Yeah.
if you talk about intelligent monsters, some of them must be more experienced than others.
Well, I mean, just like characters, why can't monsters level up?
Yeah, why can't you go up against a mind flayer who's had a little more time to flay some minds?
Right? Or why? Or what about? I mean, orcs.
Yeah,
You
the
know, they
orcs
can
have to
advance.
level up. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if orcs are still a monster
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right.
because
That's a
orcs, I
good point.
believe, are a completely playable race now. So I don't think you're going to put a playable race in a monster manual.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Although they did put men in the monster manual in the first one.
And the first one had yeah, I've seen like where they have like dwarves and elves as monsters in the books, and I'm just kind of like, but they're playable characters.
Yeah, I actually have to look it up. I don't think monster manuals where men were in it. I think men show up. Yeah, men. No, they are. There they are. Men. I'm gonna go to the listing for men in the original monster manual because now I'm curious to remember
Okay.
exactly what it was. So men actually get 1, 2, 3, 4 pages, and normal men have 1 to 6 hit points each. There are many types of men.
I should hope so.
Yeah, it's so this actually, I haven't looked at this for so long. It breaks men down into bandits, berserkers, buccaneers, cavemen, and tribesmen, dervish, merchants, and pilgrims. Very random.
Right, right. Scott Congable, our good buddy, says that one of the best things about D&D 3.0 is it had rules to put character classes on monsters.
That's, you know what? I think I need to go back and take a look at some 3.0 again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it for that's what we know for the new monster manual so far. I guess we probably, the next time we revisit what's going on with the monster manual, will probably be out.
Yes. Can't wait. Can't look forward to it. Can't wait is what I was trying to say.
Right. Can't wait. Right. All right.
You can wait for it. All right. Wow. What is this final story that we've got here?
So Voltron. They finally made an RPG for it. It's the first time someone's done an RPG for Voltron. It's by Catalyst Games Lab. They do great work.
Hold on. I see DreamWorks written on this.
So I think Voltron is a DreamWorks property, and Catalyst Role Playing Games is making the game.
Did they make a movie? Did DreamWorks make a Voltron movie and I didn't know about it?
No, but they did put out a series a couple of years ago.
Okay.
So
not keeping maybe up. All right, go on.
All right, so what's interesting is there are 2 versions of the game. They're pretty much the same basic rules and stuff, but the setting and stuff is a little different in both the series. So you can get Voltron, Defender of the Universe, which is based on the Voltron animated show from the 80s. And then there's Legendary Defender, which is based on the more recent series that premiered on Netflix.
Oh.
Right?
That is an interesting way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's kind of cool because you know, it's the 5 lions, so you have 5 characters. And they have stuff in there. I was reading on this. They have stuff in there. So if you only have 3 players at the table, you know, the other 2 are just NPCs or whatever. And then they have rules for forming the lion and fighting individually. And then there's also a story going on where you're defending the universe against adversaries on other planets and stuff. So pretty cool. I always wanted to run around on one of these lions when I was a kid. So
just before we go any further, I have to say how amazing the cover art is on both of them. So I mean, I'm not a fan. I don't really know Voltron and all that stuff, but even so, I have no nostalgia, in this or anything. But
really,
I was doing something else on Saturday mornings, I guess.
Okay, that's fine.
But the one on the left, which I'm presuming is the 80s version. It looks like it. You know what?
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay, yeah, because the other one says like that one just jumps out at you. Like if I was picking up one of the 2, that one just looks amazing.
Right.
So but they both look great. So you've got Voltron with I don't know what explain to me what the different parts of Voltron are here. What his hand is a wolf? What's going on?
Okay, so it's 5 lions. And they're different colors.
Okay.
So there's the robot lions. So you get in it's not robot, they're vehicles. So the people would get, the different pilots would get in the different lions,
Mhm.
and the lions would run out, and they're also like spaceships, and they fly through the air, and the different lions could fight. They have like, shoot fire out of their mouth and stuff. But when the threat, and this this is like every episode, right? Every episode, the lions would start the fight, and then of course they'd have to form Voltron to defeat the big bad, right?
Mhm.
And it would be some monster made by, or some robot made by the same villain every week. And then they would have to form Voltron and come together to fight it. And then you see that sword in his hand, he would actually have to form that. So he'd start the fight without it, but inevitably he'd have to form Blazing Sword, and he'd put his hands up in the air, and the sword would appear. It's a whole thing, this whole production.
Wouldn't it be
And
more efficient to just be Voltron and have the sword the whole time?
well, see, that's the thing. Like, dude, why would you ever not have that sword in your hand? Because he
Yeah.
would like, oh, I need the sword now. It's just like,
Is it
start with
like a
that.
thing where they have to maybe you just have to get under low bridges so you don't want to be that big all the time?
I think it's kind of like, it was called Battleship Yamato.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what the American name was, but
I think it was just called
Star Blazers.
What?
Star Blazers.
Oh, it did have a different name. You're right. You're right.
So they would always inevitably at some point during the episode they'd have to fire their wave motion gun or whatever it was,
Mhm.
and it was just kind of like, and the same thing with Robotech, right? They always had to fire that main gun, and it's just like, why don't you guys just start the battle with that? Like,
Yeah.
why are you waiting?
But you know what? I have to say this is where maybe there's something special going on, because when I watch NFL football, and you see a great game and it gets down to the very last 2-minute warning, and all of a sudden they're just going crazy, hurry up offense. They're throwing bombs the whole time. I'm always thinking, why didn't you just do that in the first 2 minutes? Why, now you can rush and get all these touchdowns. Why didn't you just act like that at the beginning? So maybe it's the same thing.
Right.
There's got to be a reason. All right, so tell me more about Voltron. What's going on with the quick start?
So here's what's interesting. I thought, like I didn't know whether this would be the third story that I'd pick or not, but I picked this one because when I started looking at the details of it, it uses something called the Dice Core system.
Mm-hmm.
And why that's interesting to us is it's you have your stats. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stats in this one. And you assign the stats a D4, D6, D8, D10, or D12. And then you're going to add them to a skill, which is going to be D4, D6, D8, or D12. And then there is what's called your feat die, which is very, it's whatever the feat you're doing, how hard that is, sort of like a decision die kind of. And you roll those 3 dice and add them together. Sound familiar? Yeah. And it's like, I'm not upset by that, because I'm just like, well, okay, cool. That makes it more compatible with Lucky 13. So
they could have just come to us
jump
and
into a
have
lion
it for free.
Right.
We would have handed them a set of rules right then and there.
Mm-hmm. Now, there are some differences. I mean, definitely there's some differences. Like, for example, when you turn into Voltron, the D20 becomes available to you. I don't know why. I just looked down. I just downloaded the quick start, and it didn't really go into a whole lot of depth, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I think your hit points are much different, and there's like and they do shift up and shift down dice, so they don't add to it.
Same as us.
Either same as us, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I know. I love to see that, because, well, first of all, like we said before, we want people to use Lucky 13, and even though they didn't, we assume they didn't take the Lucky 13 system and use it, but they came up with one that was pretty damn close. And
Right.
To be fair, Lucky 13, there's a lot of similarities between our system and Savage Worlds, in some ways. So I just like the fact that this further validates that type of dice pool system, because I love playing with this type of system.
Yeah,
it's easy to do, and the fact that another game is coming out with one along the same lines just adds to that kind of zeitgeist.
Oh yeah. I just thought it was really interesting that they had 3 dice that you roll and add them together, and you step the dice up and down. I was just like, wow. And when you get to D12, if you step it up, you add 1. You step it up again, you add 2.
Well, that's exactly the reason we do it, because you have your two faces apart, between a D4 all the way up to D12, and then a D20 is a big jump up. You're not going to a
Giant.
D14 and a 16 and 18.
Right.
It's a big jump up. So it makes sense that they would do it the same way we did, to stop at D12.
Right.
But the dice core system, the way it says this here, is this a system that existed before that they've just picked up on, or did they just create it and call it that?
That I don't know. I don't know that. It sounds like it's something that maybe they've used before, but I really couldn't tell you. I mean, Catalyst Labs game, they have a lot of games, and I think we talked about them before, where they get a lot of the old properties.
Yeah.
So
them and I shouldn't try to think of things off the top of my head because I'm suddenly blanking on
Evil Hat's another one.
Yes, that's who I was trying to think of. That's doing a lot of properties. Yeah. So that's cool.
Dave Roseman says, "I wonder how it would work with DCC style dice." I don't know that. I don't know.
I don't really know what DCC style dice are. This is yet another time that I missed James.
Yeah, James would have been like on this.
He would have been right in here giving us the history of these types of die pool systems, and DCC he knew like the back of his hand. But so we don't know. You got the dummies here now. We just don't know.
Yeah, everybody's suffering.
Everybody's suffering. But
he would have said, he'd have been like, "Oh, the dice core system. Well, they put that out in blah 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 with the game blah blah blah, and these other 3 games have used it." And
so all right. So this Kickstarter is wrapping up. Do they have a date for when this is going to go? Can you still back it? Because I
no, it's done. It just finished. It just finished like yesterday, I think.
Well, you know what? A lot of times Kickstarters, if they have the backer kit afterwards, they let you get in on it anyway.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's tied into backer kit because I saw something on that. So
yeah, I mean, I know we do that. That if you miss one of our Kickstarters, we're not going to turn away money.
Right.
As long as there's still time to get the orders in. So I'm going to try to get it pick up. Well, you know what I better do? I better watch Voltron.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me. I have to be honest, Saturday morning cartoons were really not my thing as a kid. I thought they were kind of dumb.
Wow. Okay.
I was always making fun of Saturday morning cartoons when I was a kid. I'm like, who are these for? I'm too smart for these.
Oh no, I loved them. I was a fool though. I used to watch all that stuff, man. I'd come home from school I remember when I was in like 4th grade, I'd come home from school and I would like, get home quick so I can catch Speed Racer and
okay. No, Speed Racer's good.
Okay.
there were good ones. And this is going to sound silly, because there's so many of them that I'm just going to poo-poo and like a He-Man, whatever. But I actually thought Smurfs was kind of good.
Really? Okay.
Like, yeah, I thought there was something more to it. I don't know why, but I actually enjoyed Smurfs.
And I think the funny thing is that, and it might be that I was just a year or 2 old for it, but I didn't get into He-Man, Transformers, or G.I. Joe. I never got into those 3.
No, my little cousin that lived with us, who's like my little brother, he loved all of those things. He was about 4 years younger than me, still is, and and I was horrible. I would just sit there. He was trying to enjoy his shows, and I would just sit there and make fun of the show the whole time. I was such a jerk.
Oh, David Benavides said Star Blazers. Yeah, I was totally into Star Blazers.
Yeah. Well, Star Blazers, that's Battleship Yamato.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I remember we went to the beach one summer, and so we're over in Ocean City, which is, like, I don't know, it's like 2.5 hours from where I am. I sat down and watched Star Blazers, and I could only hear about every other word or so because it was and the picture was static. But I just sat there and watched this, and they're just like, "What are you doing? Like, you're not even really seeing it." And I'm like, "Shh."
I
missed one of the 2 words.
Space. Yeah. Oh yeah. Scott Congables says Thundar, which I have to admit I can hear Thundar being yelled just by seeing that. It's true. But yeah,
Thundar was one of my favorites.
We got the Space Giants, which was the live action show from Japan that was about a family that could turn into giant robots. It was probably equally stupid, but it looked cool. And there was cool. I think I liked the live action stuff. There was the Arc 2 about the like post-apocalyptic kind of RV that went driving around, stuff like that. There was some good things.
Ultraman. Remember Ultraman?
Yes.
That was the best. I used to love Ultraman.
Yeah, we got all those Japanese live action things about 15 years after they aired in Japan. So like we could basically have a cultural touchstone with Japanese people who could be our parents,
Yeah, pretty much.
but not our contemporaries.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. So there were some good things. Scott Kongable's got Princess Ariel and Ukla the Mok, which I do remember. Ukla looked like the little space alien with a wizard hat.
No. You're thinking. No, I know who you're thinking of. You're thinking
am I
of
thinking of?
Orko from.
That's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, Ukla was the big. He was the Wookiee. He was like their version of Chewbacca.
Oh, that's
He'd
all
be
right.
Like, he was in Thundar.
That's pretty good. All right, these are good things.
Yeah.
These are good things. But Voltron, you know what? I'll check it out. The game itself looks great, so I want to see how they make it, how they do it, how they make it happen.
Yeah, and
Right.
you know, Catalyst Labs games, they pretty much rarely ever fail on anything. They're usually their stuff is usually pretty damn good.
They know what's up. They know
Yeah.
what's up.
All
Well,
right,
all right.
that's our stories.
And hey, just a reminder, if anybody is hearing this or seeing this and has a game that they would like to submit for a nomination for the Golden Fez Awards, there are 2 days left. The submissions close on December 31st. So we've had a lot and some really good looking submissions. So that's good to know. But there are still 2 days left. And so if you know anybody or if you want to nominate somebody else's, you've still got time.
Yeah, you can nominate yours, someone else's, doesn't matter.
Yep.
And then, of course, you know, we mentioned before, we have, if you want to make a game and then maybe spin it next year, you can always use our Lucky 13 engine. That's free to use and like always yours. And once you make something, it's irrevocable. It cannot be taken away from you.
We don't control it at all. We just give you the tools and say, go forth and make.
Yes.
All right.
And then
So
there's always the like and subscribe.
That's the one. Please do. Please do. It means a lot if you give us a subscription and a like on YouTube. And if you're listening on your favorite podcatcher, please go to them, whether it's Apple Podcasts or somebody else, and leave us a review. It helps a lot.
Yeah.
We will
all right. Well,
see
that's
you
a
all
short
next
one
week.
this week.
Yeah. Happy New Year when it gets here. And we'll see you in 2025.
Yeah, man.